Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. We must never forget their little slogan that the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset and the Agenda 2030 crowd don't want you to know, but are certainly putting it into action every day, and that's you will own nothing. You will be happy. Whether you like it or not, they will own everything, and you're going to be happy to just be a slave. They're going to own your all of your possessions, your home, your mind, even down to your DNA. I mean, that's what they want, and that's what we're fighting against. There's been more data coming out, just kind of showing that. We're going to get to that here in just a second. First, there was a couple of things in the news I just wanted to throw out real quick. Not go into detail on it, but I think they're important. Number one, there are rumors now that Russia is planning on blockading the Black Sea. That's there where the port going into Odessa, into Ukraine. If that happens, well, number one, food prices could skyrocket even more because there's so much wheat and grain that come out of that area. Number two, it could certainly spark some type of greater war involving NATO. A lot of sticky stuff going on there, so be paying attention to that. Also, secondly, it's been reported, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, how there's this big push now for the heat, the temperatures, climate change, all this kind of stuff. We're already seeing countries and cities start to put into place old COVID-style lockdowns and restrictions due to climate. Even the other day showed you that wonderfully choreographed video of the dancing nurses when it came to climate change. Well, this one's kind of interesting. They're reporting that ocean temperatures are rising dramatically. Temperatures off the coast of Florida, this is water temperatures off the coast of Florida are being reported at 100+ degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures in the Mediterranean Sea are being reported at almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, this could all be faked. This is something that they could do easily to throw things off and throw you off. But if that is true, that's actually kind of significant. Kind of makes you think about that movie from 20 years ago, The Day After Tomorrow, of how the world just came to an end because the ocean temperatures rose rapidly. But we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more of this push, this narrative, and whether or not we will see a real disease type pandemic that shuts things down or not, who knows? I mean, there's several candidates out there floating around that could be the one. But I think definitely we're going to see some massive restrictions in the coming future because of climate. They're going to use that. Hollywood's been producing movies on it for years of how the world ends because humans destroy the climate. It's there. It's going to happen. I mean, I'm not promising you, but I feel strongly in that. So let's get on with the rest of this. Before I do, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe. I think YouTube's been playing around with the channel. I keep, likes, so the subscribers will go up and then they go down, go up and go down, go up and go down. Make sure you're subscribed if you like this channel. And if you really like this channel, I would recommend you go sign up and to my locals channel. There's a link down in the description below. You can go to thepreparedhomestead.locals.com. And it's another platform. It's free speech. I post exclusive content over there. Some of it's free, some of it's not. But even the monthly fee, you're only talking $3. I mean, and the thing is it's free speech, and that's where I'm always going to be, even when YouTube kicks me off, because eventually they're going to do that. I mean, we all know that eventually these platforms run by these big technocracies are not going to be safe for folks like us. As much as we like them because they're user-friendly or there's more content here or they just function cleaner, it doesn't matter. At some point, we have to realize that we are no longer welcome or safe in these places and to take our business elsewhere. Some numbers came out that I wanted to point out, and this fits with this you'll own nothing and be happy. Of course, the Fed is probably going to be raising interest rates today. It may have already happened by the time you watch this. So by the time you're watching this, it's possible that the Fed has already raised interest rates. The speculation is that it's 0.25%, 0.25. Okay, that's kind of expected. They're saying that it could be at least one more interest rate raising before the end of the year. What a lot of people don't realize, it's not just that causes more costs on our end. It's the removal of our wealth into the wealthy. Okay, it's not something that's taught in schools. It's not something that the elite want you to know. But when we see inflation of our dollar, where does all that extra money come from? You know, if you have a dollar bill that, just let's make it simple, okay? I know these aren't accurate numbers, but let's say 5 years ago that dollar bill had a $1 purchasing power, and now 5 years later it only has a 50-cent purchasing power. Where did that 50 cents go? Did costs really increase? Did wages increase by 50%, causing the cost of goods to increase by 50%? Is everybody 50% wealthier, causing no, it's not. In fact, if you look over the last 50 or 60 years, especially going back from the 1960s, most of the reports I see start kind of there. You look at the cost of doing business has gone up. If you look at the cost to buy things, it's gone up. If you look at the profits of businesses, most businesses' profits have increased in the neighborhood of, you know, we're seeing like 60% more with inflation adjusted of 60% more. But then if you look at the wages, wages have gone up only a small amount, at least minimum wages, even, you know, average wage workers. So where's all this money going? When they raise interest rates, so you're having to pay more on your car payment, you're paying more on your house payment, you're paying more on your credit card payment, your inflation goes up, and so your currency is worth less, has less of a buying power. You know, where does all this go? You can no longer go buy a double cheeseburger for $1, right? You know, you guys should have at least that concept, right? That is the transfer of wealth, okay? If the cost, you know, the actual value of something is the material versus the labor that's put into the material to have a finished product. I'm not going to go into great detail in this type of economics, but I think most people can kind of wrap their head around that. Well, if the labor hasn't changed much, if the cost of the goods really hasn't changed so much, then where is all this extra cost come from? Why do things cost more? Why is our currency worth less? Why does interest rates have to go up? Well, the most simplest reason is because they're taking your wealth and putting it into their pockets. These very elites, if you look over the past 3 years, just since the pandemic, the average American has actually lost wealth. Okay, businesses have closed down permanently. People have lost their homes. There's no real hard signs that show that the American people are much better off economically, financially, than they were before the pandemic. It's just, I mean, there's a few cases, few industries that did really well, but across the board, not so much. But yet, look at the very wealthy. Every one of them, some of their wealth has increased, you know, triple digits over the last 3 or 4 years. But most of them, you know, at least 50% increase in wealth. Why is that so? Well, it's because they're transferring wealth from you to them. Some numbers here to look at, and I try to remember them, so if I get them incorrectly a little bit, please forgive me, but I'm going to go ahead and post them here so that you can see. 3 years ago, the average median house cost about $290,000. Now today, that very same home, the cost is about $410,000. That's a substantial increase. It's like a very large increase for the exact same home in only about 3 years. If you look at other things of costs, you know, there's 23% now. The average is 23% of the homes on the market that the middle class can even afford. Less than a quarter of the homes just a year ago, I believe it was, this little thing here will tell you correctly, just a year ago, 40% of homes were affordable for median income earners. Like, we're talking almost half, a drop of almost half the homes in 1 year. That's substantial, folks. I know we talk about sensational things. I get it. This topic is not, it's not sensational enough to be popular. People complain about the sensational stuff, but that's who watches all the, it's what people watch. They watch the sensational stuff. This is not sensational, but this is serious, Will we find ourselves in a global war? Possible, maybe. Will we have another big killer pandemic? Maybe. Will CBDC come out and destroy everything? Likely. All of these things. This one here, it's happening. It's absolutely happening. It's already affected thousands and thousands of lives. I have personal friends that's in the process of trying to purchase move and purchase a home. And just in the last few months, the amount of home that they could purchase has gone down significantly. If they, let's just throw out some numbers I make up, if they could purchase a $250,000 home, 4 months ago, now they can only afford, because of interest rates and everything, maybe $180,000 home. And the cost of homes have gone up, so it's even compounded even more of a smaller house than what they could afford, or smaller piece of land. This is wealth transfer, folks. They are doing this little by little. It's kind of the same way as the shrinkflation. You go to the store and you say, well, inflation isn't too bad. This particular product here has only gone up by 5% in price. See, look at the price as it was a year ago, and now it's only 5%. But they don't show you that the manufacturer reduced the size of this product by maybe 3 ounces. So when you figure that in, it actually shows that the price increased by maybe 9%, 10%, 11%. It's picking at us a little here and there, everywhere, because of what I'm showing you with housing, how it's gone up. Well, that's causing insurance rates to go up, because your insurance is based on the value of the house. So if you had a house 2 years ago, it was worth $250,000, and now they're saying, well, it's worth $350,000. Now you're paying higher insurance premiums. It's a little bit here and there, all over the place. Is it accidental? Is it just because we went through this big pandemic lockdown stuff a few years ago and we still haven't pulled ourselves out of it? That's what the mainstream economists will tell you, and that it's getting better. We're still recovering. It's still on the upside. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, because money, whatever you want to call money, but let's just say the US dollar. It's not real money, but we'll just call that money for the sake of the argument. There's only so much of it. Now, I know you're going to say, yeah, but they keep printing more. Just hear me out. There's only so much of it. And if the poor people are having less and less for some reason, whether through taxation or inflation or just cost of living, then that money there is going somewhere. If you're still spending, if you go to the store and you spend $300 on groceries, and now you're still spending $300 on groceries, but you're getting less, there's that gap there of money. It's going somewhere. Does the grocery store worker, are they making more money now and that's making up for the difference? No. What about the factory workers that's making all the food that you're buying? Are they making more money? No, not at all. There's costs. The factories and the grocery stores, they're paying higher interest rates, they're paying higher taxes, they're paying higher insurance rates. But at the end, who's getting all that extra, right? It's the follow the money. Who benefits? Who gets all the extra? Because everyone's paying higher rates for things. Someone down at the end of the line is getting all of that extra that they're paying. Now, they don't want you to think like this. They don't want you to think that far off into the future, or that far off into the supply chain of money. In the end, the people that are making all of that, because it all has to stop somewhere. It doesn't really just cycle around. If you look, it doesn't. It's not a big circle of life kind of thing. At the end, all that extra money goes somewhere, and it's going in the pockets of the very, very elite, the BlackRocks of the world, Vanguard, these big tech companies, people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Google and all of these elite families, these Soroses and the Rockefellers and all of the Ford family, all these families, these top tier families, because they own everything, that's where all the money's going. So it is a transfer of wealth. It's not like the elites are sending armed police or military to your house and taking your money and then keeping it. That's what they did a few hundred years ago. That was how they transferred wealth then. They would just, have the tax collector guy and the sheriff, the Robin Hood story, go to your house and demand that you hand over a bag full of your money, or you go to prison or you die. And that's how wealth transfers happened back then. It's not working that way. I mean, there's still armed, people coming to people's houses and taking their stuff, but the vast majority of wealth transfer happens this way. Little bits here and there. Increased costs of banking. Your fees go up for banking fees. Your insurance goes up. This goes up. Your property taxes go up. Everything, it's going up little bit at a time, little bit at a time. In the end, who's getting all that little bit? Because it's not the average people. Because on all of those industries, whether it's government and taxes, whether it's building of the roads, whether it's, the guys running the insurance companies, and those are all the medium to lower income people. They're not making any more money. Statistics are showing none of them are making any more money. So it's not like, well, we've got to increase the cost because we're paying our workers so much more money. No, they're not. Workers are getting the same amount of money. Where's all that increased cost going? It's going to line the pockets of the elites. That's what we're seeing. So even if we don't see all of these other extreme things happen that we talk about on a daily basis, I believe many of them will happen. But even if we don't, we are absolutely watching the greatest transfer of wealth in history. That was one of the very first things I spoke about right after the pandemic first started. I said, this is going to be the greatest transfer of wealth in history. You are going to watch that play out. And here we are 3 years later, and it's still happening. And it's going to continue to happen. We're watching people have less and less. And we're watching these elites get more and more wealthy. I mean, take the top 10 wealthiest people in America. Look at their total wealth right now. You can look that up. It's super easy. And compare that wealth, those numbers, 2, 3, or 4 years ago. Most of them are double or more. How many of you have doubled your net worth in 3 years? Probably not very many. And when we're talking billions and billions, even hundreds of billions, some of them went from like 100 billion to almost 300 billion, or 20 billion to 150 billion. Dramatic numbers in just a 3 years period of time. I mean, massive numbers that the average person, we can't even wrap our heads around. Why is this happening? Because they're taking from you and lining their pockets. That's the whole Agenda 2030 plan. They want to control you into these little smart 15-minute cities where you have your little cubicle type of, apartment. You're driving your little tiny electric vehicle that only goes so far. It doesn't matter because you can only go 15 minutes anyways. They want to control your money because they're going to give you all CBDC. They're going to control what you can purchase with that money. They're going to control the energy consumption you have. They're going to control how many children you can have born. They're going to control everything. They're going to control what you eat and how nutritious it is. That is the plan. It's absolute control of you and complete consumption of wealth by them. So that in the end, they're not only the wealthiest, existing creatures on this planet, but they also control you. They control your mind. They control your body. They control you at a molecular level. I know this is probably the most far-fetched thing some of you have ever heard, but it's actually true. You look it up, you watch their videos, you listen to their things that they talk about. It's absolutely true. And you can think it's crazy, but I'm telling you, this is what they want to do. This is why we need to be self-sufficient. This is why we need to break the chains and the bondage from these elites that are ruling the world. This is why we need to do everything we can to build small communities of like-minded people and to get as independent as we can. It's not going to fix everything, but it's certainly going to make it way better than it is now. You need to be getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.